Council meeting for February the 22nd to start at 4 p.m. We had some people that made a detour to Rodney. So number one is call to order. So I'll call the meeting to order at it's now 4:07 p.m. Number two on our agenda is adoption of the agenda. So resolution number 2024-59. West Elgin Council hereby adopts a regular council agenda for February 22nd, 2024 as presented. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Denning, seconder. Councillor Novakis, all in favor? It is so moved. Number three in our agenda is disclosure of any pecuniary interest. Looking around the room, anybody have any? You can declare it now or at the time. Not seeing any disclosures. Number four is our delegations, and the first delegation is Larry Schneider. So if you can approach the podium, and Lee will help you there with the mic. And if anybody needs an agenda, they're on the podium if there's any left there. And you have the floor, Mr. Schneider.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to have some of your time and attention. They always say begin by flattering, buttering up your audience. So I just want to say what an honor it is to have you folks serving us in our community. I know you've come out of busy lives, and those busy lives don't change. All they do is get busier, and you've taken the time to do this, to take on this huge commitment. So thank you. Small communities run, and the health center across the street runs because of volunteers. We have hundreds and hundreds of people who volunteer. And I think that in order to build a stronger sense of community, to recognize that all of our lives are impacted by volunteer efforts of people from across West Elgin, it's crucial that we celebrate the unsung work of as many volunteers as we possibly can, as often as we can. And I'm soon beginning a series of articles on local service clubs and other organizations like the International Club to honor their hard work, to share a bit about their history, and so on. I would propose that since the last accolades were given out to volunteers that I can find out about were in 2010. That's the date that Ms. Taustiuk has shared with me. And I spoke with Anne as well earlier and asked her. So I think recognizing volunteerism in our community needs to be very public. It instills a sense of pride into the whole community. It knits us together. And that's why I do the things I do and write the articles I write, is so we're more aware of each other and what we're doing. I started with businesses, but I'm not going to mention that any further. I would think that there should be at least an annual award, and you can make as many awards or as few as you want. It could be, the female volunteer of the year, the male volunteer of the year. I hate to break it down into geographical location, because I'm quite interested in us being West Elgin always. Perhaps because nobody's received one and some of our volunteers are they're aging out of their volunteerism, I would propose perhaps a catch-up series of awards, with their then being followed by an annual award. There'd be some legwork involved, obviously, in setting up a group who's going to sort of organize and run this. I hate to ask overburdened people. Would it be nice if there was a counselor amongst the group, and then we publicize it, you would receive nominations, and then the committee would decide how to go forward, whether to take, the top 3 names to a public vote, or simply say, okay, this person, they're due to have some kind of recognition. We should do that now. When you reward people for doing a good job, it highly motivates them. So I must say, having received this lovely plaque from Karen Vecchio on behalf of Queen Elizabeth II, the Platinum Jubilee Award, totally out of the blue, unexpected. It was 2 years ago in 2022. And you don't get told who nominated you. So it's this mystery. It could have been anybody. that did it. The only clues are in, you are given the list of attributes or activities that you're involved in, so. But I'll never know. And I seriously, I don't want to know. But the feeling it gives to that person that you give the award to their family, their friends, their network and so on is fabulous. So I propose that we institute that. I don't know what the process is now, whether you ask me questions or.
Yeah, any questions around the table? I do know we did do citizen awards. I want to say it was the fair of 2019. They're presented during when the Friday night when they have the ambassador competition. And it was, but it's, you know, it was when they were doing their deliberations, deciding.
Mhm.
We thought it was a good fit right in there. So there was a youth, we went to the schools to ask youth, teen into early 20s, and then we did a new to the area and different things like that. So they'll be a little different, but yeah, something like that's already had gone in the works and hasn't come back, but it's a great suggestion, something that would be great in my mind on Canada Day.
Yep.
So-
And they would be followed up by, if they wish, an article and photo in the
Mhm.
paper and on social media, and I would hope on your website to
Mhm,
further make that
mhm.
known.
Yeah, Councillor Bacchus?
Through the chair, at our Economic Development Committee, Dan Seuss had brought forward the idea of also doing awards for small businesses. So I'm wondering, Larry, you and I can sit down and maybe,
Absolutely, yeah.
I like a party. So,
Mhm. Perfect.
Look, seeing nothing else, you want to go on to your murals project or whatever you so choose
Yeah.
to talk about?
Sorry, I could go on forever, but there are people behind me. I see. I was hoping I'd be the only one. Counselor profiles, I would like your permission, and this is individually, to write a profile for the newspaper, having talked to each and every one of you. And with your picture, to educate the community about who you are and what you do. And I would want to include the faces and names and short biographies, like I've done with many businesses, of the people who work at the board office, the municipal office. One of my goals is somebody walks into an office or to a building and said, "Hi, Lee." I suppose, "Hi, I've seen you here for 17 years, but it says, hi, you." That's what happens to business people. So that was one of the top reasons I started writing about the businesses. So you could walk in and say, "Hi, Elizabeth. What's on special today?" Or, you know, something like that. So there'd be one of them a month. And you could decide who goes first. And we get together for a coffee. I will create a questionnaire like I use for all the other articles that I write so that you can jot stuff down, send it to me, and then I may have additional questions and so on.
Any questions on that around the table? No, go ahead.
Okay. Chronicle articles, it's hard to believe I started doing this a couple years ago almost now. So now there are 94 articles that have been published that I've written over the last 2 years for the West Elgin Chronicle. But I discovered some time ago that these are published in the newspaper online profiles across Ontario. So I noticed this when people started saying, "Hey, great article," from Sudbury and North Bay and Stratford and Windsor and so on. I was quite shocked a couple of weeks ago when I find they're all posted to the National Post. So they're Canada wide, and I do get questions from elsewhere. I try to be non-controversial. So almost 100 articles there. I will continue to write those with more businesses and updates on business that which I profile, but now they're changing hands and that sort of thing. So Terry, you've got some pictures that I sent to you. That's an update. I would propose, if you would like, Mayor Duncan and I had a long chat about the profile of the municipality in the media, the local media. And there was some anguish that we talked about at some length one day. I would volunteer to write quarterly articles. Basically, Municipality of West Elgin update. I know everything is on your website, but sadly, I don't think the number of hits you get is probably very large at all, as opposed to people who read the Chronicle and so on. Can you find the bolts first? So on to my almost last. You've seen these bolts. Does everybody recognize them? They're the base of the former Miller Motors sign, which was installed, it feels like it was installed 15 years ago, very shortly before the Ford dealership closed. The land is now owned by Rob Ganadero. It is the largest single cause of complaints to the Kiwanis Club when we run Toonie Tuesdays and our night markets and so on. It is a dangerous, ugly hazard. People have tripped over it. I'm not aware of anybody ever having fallen on to it. So my idea, Rob Ganadero would like to have it developed. He's willing to participate in having it developed. I have asked the Rodney Horticultural Club, would they not purchase but select appropriate plants to match up with the flower boxes that they've created up and down the street? They'll volunteer their time. Mike Howard and his students built the other ones, as you probably know. And the horticulture planted them. So I would need to get donations of lumber and soil. And why I'm here is to say they'll need to be watered regularly all summer. They're not on public property. They're on private property. I know the truck comes along there. Perhaps that is an issue. That's for you to decide. The horticultural people will weed them and take care of them, but they're not in the business of watering, as you know. So that is the ask right there. And the other pictures, the Kiwanis Club of Rodney started last month receiving money from bingos that we participate in. We haven't had much money for many years since the grandstand ceased to be available to us, because that was our food truck there. And we've tried to honor the other service clubs by not stepping on their toes. So my dream is the Murals of Rodney project. It would raise greatly the arts profile. My idea would be to invite former residents of West Elgin, some of whom are well-known, fabulous artists. And I think in this array, I've got about 6 or 7 different blank walls. And you know better than I, is there going to be any future development? Who owns the buildings and so on? There are permissions, there are some costs, but I pitched this idea to the Kiwanis Club because they're going to have this income coming in that they're not used to having. And we run all of our services, if you want to call to the community at present, pretty much at cost recovery. We don't go into making money off of any of them. Well, I know you probably suspect we gouge the kids at the Easter egg hunt for something, but we don't. We do not do that. So this would be just your permission I'm asking for your permission to proceed to investigate. There's still a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and some funds need to be collected and so on. And that's everything I have today, other than to ask for an invitation to come back. I have 2 other fairly significant things I'd like to ask about and write about, but I think I've said and asked enough for today. So please be in touch about any of those things, and thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Larry. And you're in touch with our clerk, Terry, for the 2 other things that we can have in a future meeting?
I was going to say, Gwen and I are going to celebrate our 40th anniversary of living here.
Congratulations, that's exciting.
Mayor Richard, I have known probably for 38 of those. And then of this group, the person I've known the longest,
Oh, okay.
sorry, she can tell some other time. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for that delegation. So the next delegation we have up is 4.2 on our agenda. So Spreets and Associates, West Lawrence Storm Sewer Study says 2023. 2023. Kind of started in 2023, I guess. Yeah. Thank you. If you can state your name too.
Yeah, my name's Chris Learman. I'm an engineer at Spreed Associates in London. Hopefully I don't forget this when I go. You've received a copy of this report. It's fairly lengthy and specific, I would suppose. I'm gonna try and generalize this as best I can and answer any questions. There's a lot of effort that went into this. It's fairly detailed. We've worked hand in hand with Lee and Tom to prepare it. Just a quick summary of how this started. The West Lorne Storm Sewer Study 2023. West Lorne, we're in right now, had two extremely large rainfall events in 2023. July 29th, roughly 6 inches in a 2-hour period. And less than a month later, August 23rd, approximately 7 inches in a 5-hour period. There's been a lot of photos, a lot of perhaps name calling, I'm not sure, but a lot of ponding, a lot of people are upset. There's been flooding in homes. It took a long time for the water to go away. We were contacted by Lee primarily and Magda as well to say what information do we have in the area? How can we assist? I don't believe West Elgin's had a storm study in many years. So we provided a proposal to analyze the entire network, the entire storm sewer system in this town. Just to state a few things, you have what we call storm sewers, and you also have municipal drains. So they can all be deemed one and the same, but the way you might tender them or pay for them is vastly different. That's something we might get into at the end of this presentation, but a significant portion of your sewers in town are actually municipal drains. And if you stick with that classification, tendering those or restoration or repairs, replacement is through the Drainage Act. The storm sewers that aren't under the Drainage Act would be done in typical West Elgin road reconstruction fashion, whether it's engineering or construction. Just to put it in perspective, the two storms you had in 2023, I believe you also had one in 2021 that was of a similar volume. We've equated those to approximately the 1 in 250-year event. So in layman's terms, we should have, based on past history of rainfall events, before climate change came into place, you should have only seen that rainfall once every 250 years. You had two of them in 3.5 weeks. What this study entailed from our office was we sent a survey crew out. We surveyed the center line of the entire town. We surveyed the top elevation of all manholes, all catch basins. We pulled all the lids, measured down to verify the depth, the diameter, the orientation, came back to the office, tied it all down on our drawings, created a storm sewer network, if you will, and we did the modeling of it. And the modeling, we can go through these drawings here. I think we have 21 figures. I don't think our intention is to go through those. We can. But we look at each block, each run of sewer, each block, if it's fronted by residential homes, is the entire yard coming to that road? Does that entire rear yard come in? It determines our watershed limits for that specific run. And this block might add to this block, might combine on Graham Road, might combine with sewers from the other side, and they combine and enter larger sewers. So that's how the model was created. The calculation sheets are all in here. The maps are all in here. It's fairly onerous and detailed. We looked at the results of it. We modeled it based on what your current design standards are. And I'm pretty sure West Elgin doesn't actually have their own inherent municipal design standards. I think you use Dutton Dunwich. So we use Dutton Dunwich's storm sewer model, which is a 5-year storm event. We modeled this entire system based on their criteria. It essentially revealed that the bulk, if not almost all of your sewers, are undersized to meet the 5-year storm. Doesn't mean they weren't designed to a 2-year storm 10 years, 20 years, 40 years ago, We modeled it based on the Dutton Dunwich current standard. Those were our findings. We then ran the exact same model, same sewer, same sewer shed, same limits, same lengths. We matched the same slopes because there really isn't too much ability to vary slopes through a town of this size. A few runs, yes, but the whole town can't just raise all the slopes or the sewers will come out of the ground. And that generated our proposed sizing to meet the 5-year storm. We could do any storm you wanted, but we went with the 5. And that generated the 5 or 6 pages in here, block by block, run by run of the storm sewers. If we were to replace all storm sewers in town, our cost estimate, engineering, tendering, construction was a little over $27 million. It's a staggering amount of money. We met with Lee and Tom and looked at our findings a few times before this was finalized. We added a few things. We also looked at municipal drains, not necessarily the sewers in town, but we have several open channels, basically in that direction. Down there, I think we have 3 or 4 municipal drains that are either open ditches or tiles. And the bulk of them are sized to the 5 to 25 year storm. Some of them are 50. A few hindrances we have are down just south of Marsh Line. We have a culvert that's sized for the 2-year storm. And we have another culvert that's near the wastewater treatment plant that's sized for less than a 2-year storm. Does that necessarily back up all the way to here in a huge storm? Probably not, but it doesn't help the situation. So we looked at the 27 million. We clearly realized no municipality has that kind of money. Any sort of efforts would be phased over many years. We did select our top 2 recommended, most beneficial repairs. They're in, I believe they're on page 12, and that's there. I'm just going to open up here so I don't make a mistake. Page 12, it's Main Street. I think it's just down this way, right in front of the church.
Mhm.
I think you've had flooding there for
Yeah.
decades. And even the smallest of small storms, I think that's one of the first places you've noted it. So we have included that one, roughly 270 meters. The value of that, I believe it currently has 300 millimeter diameter sewers. Our recommendation is more than double that, 675. We also have another one that's fairly significant. South part of town, it's the Wilton Drain, where it veers off and heads west towards the open drain, just the south part of town. It's currently a 600 millimeter drain. That's coupled with the 1200 that continues to run down Graham. We want to leave that 1200 untouched, but we want to replace that 600, which drains probably 90% of your town. It needs to go from a 600 to an 1800 millimeter diameter. So we've listed those 2. The value of those again is roughly 800,000 and 1.9 million. So we've tried to narrow it down. We can narrow this down even further. I did say to Lee, our quotation hasn't been met, for quotation yet. So we do have the ability to assist with further, I wouldn't say revisions, but to any sort of questions, any sort of further things we want to review. One thing I would say that I would be remiss if I didn't was that the 2 events you had, if not the 3, were roughly the 1 in 250 year storm. This modeling in this report is to the 5-year event. So even if we did all of this, $27 million, it still can't handle those 2 major events you had. So I don't want to just pretend this is fantastic and it's going to solve everything. It won't solve those. Your ponding and your flooding would be less severe. It wouldn't be visible as long. It would dissipate much faster. But a 5-year storm can't handle a 250-year storm event. I just want to make sure that's known. We can model this for anything we want. If we wanted to model this for the 250-year event, your costs would, well, I haven't even done the calculation. Be more than double. It would be unattainable. There's one other issue we had in this report as well. It was near the end. It was a backflow prevention program. A lot of our findings were from your personnel, giving us some information that we're not firsthand to. A lot of homes here, a lot of properties are connected with their internal piping directly to these storm sewers. And if the sewer backs up, it's gonna find the weakest link, and it's gone into many of these homes, so I'm sure you're aware of how many it is. I don't have specific addresses, but I didn't want to be that specific here. But I would suggest that a review take place of exactly how many and where. And there might be the ability to at least notify the people to put backflow preventers in their connections, whether it's a program or a subsidy of some sort. Not for me to say, but I think it would be a worthwhile avenue to
Okay.
pursue. That's essentially my presentation. I'm certainly open to answering any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the summary of your report and how detailed it was. So I'll bring it to the floor for council. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bacchus?
I highlighted it and you were using Dutton Dunwich as a reference. Is that something that we as a municipality should have? Or using Dutton Dunwich standard is acceptable? We don't have a design standard specific to our municipality. Is that something we should have?
My initial comment is you don't have to.
Okay.
We do review some site plans that are received for development here. On behalf of West Elgin, we do review some of them, if not all. And the current standard is use Dutton Dunwich. They are not far away, of course. Is there anything inherently in those standards that's inadequate? I'm not aware of it. So it doesn't, I don't have a specific concern that you don't have one.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments from council? Councillor Denning?
Thank you, and through the chair, Chris, thank you so much for clearly all the work that this has been for you and your team. We certainly appreciate having this in front of us finally, and certainly gives us a place to start. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what you and your team have created for us essentially is a comprehensive tool in the toolbox to mitigate our drainage issues. There are other things on top of enhancing physical infrastructure that we as a municipality can consider to mitigate drainage issues like swales and holding ponds and other things as well. Like, this isn't just the only thing that we can do. There's other options that we can also pursue as well to complement triaging the cost associated with the work that you've proposed. That's my first question.
That there are certain ways that you could do that. You're very limited in residential areas where it's fully built up. It's difficult to do that. Let's just say the most obvious would be to put a pond in. I mean, a lot of these sewers, to point to where they are, I mean, your site comes in, it all comes down Graham. There's a bit of a jog, it continues down Graham, and there's a bit of a split to the Wilton drain, and then the Graham drain continues. That wasn't something we looked at specifically. Are there the ability to do that? Certainly in new developments there are. When a new development takes place, we always have, stormwater management is always the ugly issue. It isn't normally sanitaries or water. It's usually stormwater management to make sure your post-design runoff is less than your pre, so it doesn't get worse. How many locations that could take place in? It would almost predominantly be in the non-developed or vacant areas, to be fair, unless you really can't do that within fully developed residential areas or commercial.
Thank you. Through the chair. Thank you, Chris. So my second thought was, and of course, I've been giving this a lot of thought since last summer, and certainly having lots of visits with folks. What about the idea of diversion? And what I mean by that is there's certain spots that I've looked at that perhaps there's a case to be made for actually diverting some of the drainage coming into the village. For instance, the trigger drain that comes into the town at Monroe Street from the train tracks. There's a open ditch on the west side of West Lorne that I don't know what the length would be. Let's say it's 750 meters or a kilometer. If we could, run a new ditch so that all of that water coming in from the north end of West Lorne no longer runs through the town. That was one thought I had. The second thought was the, not the trigger drain, but the Cahill drain on the other side, which is an open ditch drain at the south end of Main Street that run along the church that is so badly challenged.
Mhm.
If we could possibly run that portion of the drain instead of running it all the way through West Lorne, run it back to that open part of the Cahill drain, which then drains outside of the village of West Lawrence. So is there a case to be made for looking at diverting some of the drainage out of the village to essentially take some of the burden, the pressure off of the current infrastructure?
We have not looked at that. I think the ultimate goal was to analyze the system, which generated this and some back and forth to, well, I won't say finish it off, but get it to a point where we can fully discuss it. Here's a stamped document. We have some additional, we haven't met our scope yet in terms of budget. We're under budget. So we do have the ability to review this. It has not been addressed. It's been discussed in the office of possible locations to do it. Yeah, I think you're referring to this way for the Cahill, I think, correct? East? Yep. So we can certainly look into it. You know, when you get into a detailed design, this isn't detailed design. This is taking all of our inverts, everything we measured. We incorporated as-built drawings where they exist, design drawings where as-built don't exist. We matched those with the inverts we measured to come up with, you know, the most accurate summary we can give you. Each of these jobs, if they were ever to take place, would then need detailed engineering to you know, not necessarily confirm it, but you would need your full plan and profile. You're doing a full survey of the entire road allowance. You probably, if everything matched, might replace water or sanitary at the same time. You're clearly doing roadworks at the same time with these, or a portion thereof. We can't just do storm sewers. They're not all in the boulevards for sure. So that can certainly be looked at. There's no doubt.
Thank you, Councillor Dunning. Councillor Vakis?
Through the chair, Ryan and I were talking about, I'm originally from London, and driving in London lately has been an absolute mess. And I look back at the past almost 16 years of council where they continually put off road work. And so we're basically, in my opinion, in London in this kind of terrible construction season because we had to. The infrastructure was so bad. And I looked at this bill and it's like, oh gosh, it's insurmountable almost. But it also seems to me it's because of the price that our taxpayer is going to have to front some of this. Individual households are going to have to front it. So I think council just continually pushes them off. And so now we unfortunately are at the point where we cannot push this off any further. And so I'm wondering, almost as a plan, there's no way we can do 27 million. And I know our staff is looking into grants, but you were saying that there's time. Is there a way to be looking at these projects 2, 3, 4, 10 years out so that we are addressing the fact that this infrastructure all needs to be replaced?
We've concentrated on what we believe are the most critical 2. We could come up with a list of the most critical 10, if that's desired. And you know, we've done a lot of reports for like bridges and culverts as an example, where we look at 60 culverts for a certain township and we critique them all and which ones need repair or which ones are great. And we list them in terms of which ones are the most critical. And we might have a target value in mind of what you think you might be able to generate or authorize, whether it's $2 million a year or one and a half every second year. We could certainly do that.
I think it's easier for planning, and I also think for some of our taxpayers or households, for them to know that this is where we're headed. I think pre-planning, it's going to have to be done, and it's a hard pill to swallow, and it sucks being the council that has been forced to kind of really take a look at $27 million, but for planning is better.
The other comment I have for that I touched on earlier was let's just say for now, I believe roughly 2/3 of your sewers in town are classified as municipal drains. So that's a different breed altogether. If you authorized a municipal drain to be replaced, that's done under the Drainage Act. I'm not an expert on Drainage Act, but my office is. We have 12 people. That's all they do is drains 24/7. We do a lot of drains for West Elgin, probably for 5 decades. The Drainage Act deals with costing in a vastly different way than a storm sewer job. And that's just the reality. Everybody that's puts a drop of water into the sewer shed that reaches those sewers is attributed for cost. And if you did it, if it were just a normal storm sewer project, that isn't a municipal drain, whether that's just through your taxes, that's more where I come in. I don't do drains, our office does. But when I deal with road recon jobs, City of London, Lambton Shores, here, Southwest Middlesex, we tender them out. I don't normally question where the money comes from. It's a job that's authorized, and where the money comes from, it's split in a completely different way than Drainage Act projects. So that's something I think might require a bit more thought than normal. This town is, there are 4 maps in here. I think it's figures 17 to 20. And it shows all the municipal drains. I think you have upwards of 10 to 15 different municipal drains in town. They're all color coded here to show where they are. It isn't 2 or 3. I think you have 10 to 15 different municipal drains in West Lorne. So the costing of those does need to be evaluated. You have the ability to convert municipal drains to West Elgin storm sewers as well, if you wish. But I think the feedback from residents is vastly different, whether it's a Drainage Act sewer or a West Elgin sewer.
Any other questions around the council table? All right, seeing none, we thank you for your delegation to us, and we'll take the recommendation, clerk.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the West Lorne Storm Sewer Study from Spreets Associates as information only.
Need a mover and seconder for that recommendation, please. Counselor Denning, Counselor Statham, all in favor? It is so moved. Move on to 4.3. Thank you for your time, Chris. 4.3, Elgin St. Thomas Small Business Enterprise Center. If you can come to the podium and state your names and then go ahead with your delegation.
Thank you very much. My name is Mike Kirkfleet, and I'm joined today by Elle Krebitz, and we're from the Elgin St. Thomas Small Business Enterprise Center. Elle's just passing a little bit of literature for you to all take home and pass on. Terry, is it possible to pull up our presentation? So, our purpose in coming here today is informational. We, through the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation, hold the province through the contract to deliver the SPEC program for St. Thomas and Elgin County. This is something that has been run for over 12 years and has been providing business supports across Elgin County for that period of time. And our goal today is to make sure that everybody's aware. I know there are some friendly faces here who are definitely very aware, but to make everybody aware of the services that we offer and that are available to your constituents, and give you some sort of kind of like nitty-gritty info on the programs that we offer. And then at the end, we're going to ask some questions. So this is your warning now to come up with questions. No one likes giving a presentation and not having questions asked in the question period. So jot some notes. But our goal is to engage with you to sort of, be the conduit that gets us in touch with the entrepreneurs in your community that we should be engaging with, and to understand if there are any peculiarities about your community that you feel we need to address better. So that's what we're here to do today. If we could go to our next slide. So this is kind of the overview of our programs. The core of what we do is our one-to-one consults. So free of cost always, anybody anywhere in St. Thomas and Elgin County can sit down with us and either kick around a new business idea, or maybe they're an existing entrepreneur that's got challenges in their business, or maybe it's succession planning, whatever it is. We're always free of cost. We're available. We're happy to come out to any community in Elgin County or to host people in St. Thomas. And that's sort of the core of what we do, but we also have a couple of programs that I'm going to let Elle talk about now.
Good evening. Good afternoon. So one of the first programs I want to talk about was our summer company program, and I gave each of you a handout for both of our programs I'll talk about. Summer Company is one of our provincially funded grant programs. We have 10 spots in this program every year. We've been running it for years. Students who are returning to school in the fall, whether that be college, high school, university, or alternative education, can apply to start their business and get a $3,000 grant. So this is anyone from 15 to 29 with that returning to school. So a great program, highly impactful. I know it doesn't seem like a lot. Sometimes we underestimate our youth, but 2 years ago when I ran this program, our 10 youth collectively made $70,000 in the 4 months they were in the program. Some of them carried on to continue running their businesses and hiring employees for years later. And that doesn't include the $30,000 we gave them in grants. So these are some highly impactful youth in our community who are also seeing opportunities for themselves to stay here. And it's about that youth retention piece. So if you know any entrepreneurial kids, now is the time to connect them with us. Please pass this postcard on. And my challenge to you is to pass both of these postcards on. They can scan this QR code, go straight to their eligibility form and see if they're eligible for our program, and start connecting with us, and we'll help them get that business off the ground and make them feel excited about the program. And our other colleague was actually in West Lorne at West Elgin High School this morning. So it's great to make those connections out here too. And in the class was the participant from last year. So it's kind of perfect. Our other program is the Starter Company Plus program. This is for not just youth. So this is for adults, 18 plus. It's for new or existing businesses. And it's $5,000, which we recognize is not enough money to start a whole business, but it is enough to help implement a project or to expand or to be part of the overall funding that is going into starting a business. But it's so much more than just funding. It's about wraparound education and training programs. So we actually put people in a bit of an incubator group. They apply, it's competitive application, and then they're part of a group of 8 people who are going through the program with them. And we give them all the supports they need from HR to accounting and everything in between to kind of really get off the ground and go with gumption and go together, because that community piece is so important to succeeding. So that's our Starter Company Plus. That's the other handout here. And again, we are taking applications for this program until March 24th. So please hand this to a business that you know is trying to do something really great or trying to get something off the ground. Hand this to them. They can scan the code. They can check their eligibility and apply through our website. We've made it as simple as possible. And even if they aren't eligible, there's often other programs we can tap them into to make sure that they're supported in what they're trying to do. And then I'll talk about our Foodpreneur Advantage program, which is actually just an extension of our Starter Company Plus program. It's a $5,000 grant from that program that we have allocated towards this Foodpreneur Incubator, which is a regional partnership of London, Windsor, Guelph, all over this region. We've come together to specifically promote and support consumer packaged good businesses. So it's a powerful program. If you know anybody in that space specifically, we'd love to connect with them directly. And I'll turn it back over to Mike to talk about the Horton Market.
Thanks, Elle. So lastly, I just want to talk a bit about the Horton Farmers Market. We were fortunate to have the opportunity to take over management of the Horton Farmers Market in 2021. The previous management structure, let's say, did not navigate COVID very well. And so to kind of swoop in and save the market, we were asked if we would take over. Since then, we've been able to roughly double the amount of vendor revenue that vendors have seen at the Horton Farmers Market. And this, I feel like, is one of the most interesting kind of city-county partnerships of what we do, because even though this is in the center of downtown St. Thomas, a vast majority of our vendors are from Elgin County. Interesting history for the Horton Farmers Market. It was actually founded as a farmers market on that site in 1878. So it's been a farmers market more or less continuously for going on a century and a half, which is pretty impressive. Sometime in the 60s or 70s, it was donated to the city of St. Thomas with a restriction on title saying that it can only ever be used as a farmers market. So it is and will always stay a farmers market, which is really cool. One project that I'm working on, which I'll wax poetic about just for a moment, is we're working on adding a commercial kitchen to the Horton Farmers Market that will be usable by the public. So in our dealings with food entrepreneurs, the single biggest issue, the barrier that are faced by food entrepreneurs is access to a kitchen. Sometimes they're lucky and they can access something in a church, or maybe there's a community center or something like that. But usually the ones that are available are very busy and very difficult to access. So we're working on adding one to the Horton Farmers Market that anyone will be able to rent sort of by the hour very inexpensively, basically just cost recovery for us. So we're looking forward to hopefully launching that this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Next slide. I just wanted to give a quick overview of our funding. I think it's always important to understand sort of how people are funded when you're hearing a presentation like this. So the bulk of our funding comes from the province of Ontario for the SBEC program. $255,000 includes the grant funds that we are given to give out and our sort of core funding for the programs that we offer. Of note, that funding level from the province for the core amount, which is basically that minus the number of grant funds we give out, has not changed since the SBEC program was introduced. So every year we lobby the province for more money. Every year they say, no, go away. And they've slowly decreased the number of grants. We've been stable for a while, but there was a time when we had like 30 summer company grants to give out. So what that has sort of meant is that municipal funding has had to slowly increase to keep the same level of service. And so some of that has been done by increasing the funding that the city and the county have put into the SBEC. In particular, so this shows an estimate of staff cost that is not on the books for the SBEC. My salary is not covered by the SBEC funding, nor is our marketing person. So we keep just kind of trying to put more subsidy in. But so about 145K is what the city puts in. The county, we're very fortunate to get 50,000 from a year, and then the other 30K is like event sponsorship and event revenue, basically. So a few events that we run a year. And I'm going to pass it over to Elle to talk about some of our outcomes.
So we have 2 full-time staff, myself and our other business advisor, Sarah Lynch. And together collectively in 2023, we did 760 one-on-one consults with businesses. So again, this is the bulk of what we do. This doesn't include the events. This doesn't include the grants. This doesn't include everything else. So it's a pretty impressive and pretty busy job. We worked with just under 400 unique businesses across St. Thomas and Elgin in the last year, of which started 91 businesses, 254 jobs were created, and we distributed $110,000 in grants, which is, again, coming out of that money from the province that we had. And as much as numbers are great, I'd rather tell you a story. So if we can go to the next slide. So many of you will recognize this person. Go back one slide. Oh, there, okay, perfect. Many of you will recognize this person, Josh Ford. He's kind of a legend around here. But you might be surprised to know about Josh in his early days in West Elgin. He actually called me in 2021 before he moved here. He was still in Guelph. And he told me about his crazy idea to open a gym in a pandemic, and he had a second baby on the way, and he was giving up the job and buying the farm and turning a horse barn into a gym in Rodney. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, how'd we do this, right? So together, Josh and I have worked together for years now, and we've watched his beautiful family grow. We've watched him just thrive in his business. There were a lot of really tough days when he was getting started, and we were one of the main supports for him in that early journey. But he's done a great job, and he's an impactful person here in this community who is giving back and building community and very engaged and very involved. And I would say is taking care of a lot of the mental health of people, mental and physical health of people in your area too, which is really awesome. So I'll just highlight a few ways that we've worked together. So we've worked through construction permits and sort of early planning and that kind of thing, making sure he had the right pieces together so to move forward. In 2022, he received the Starter Company Plus grant, and he was also recognized as the Under 40 Leadership Award at our SBEC Awards. And then in 2023, Josh has actually stepped up and taken on the chair of the YEI, which is the Young Entrepreneurs Initiative. This is a really powerful group. We have an event next Thursday with 100 young business owners under 40 signed up to attend. So really amazing group, really impactful person, human and business in our community. And so these are some of the things we do, is we build that long-term relationship to support goals as they grow and change.
Okay, so that brings us to the part of the presentation where I now put it out to you guys. I've got 3 things that are sort of our calls to action that we're hoping to get from you so that we can do an even better job of serving your community. The first is tell your local businesses that need our support who we are and how they can get in touch with us. You know, we do our best to kind of keep our eyes open, and if we see posts about a new business opening, we'll try to reach out or visit and things like that. But you guys are connected to this community. You're probably the most connected people in this community, and so please let us leverage you and have your community leverage us through that. Second, tell us your ideas about how we can better support entrepreneurs in your community. You know, whether that's different ways that we are boots on the ground providing support, or whether it's you know, understanding nuances of your communities, or trying to help fill holes if there's a certain business you're looking for that we can kind of whisper into entrepreneurs' ears, things like that. We're happy to, and we want to engage any way that we can. And then lastly, events are one of the most impactful ways for us to have a good presence in a community. And we do our best to kind of know what's coming up and what's happening, but honestly, there's lots of things that we miss. We cover a large territory, so it's tough. So if there's anything that you think we should be at, let us know, and we'll do our best to have someone there representing us. So thank you for listening. That's the presentation that we have for you today, and we eagerly await your questions.
Thank you so much. I don't know if we have questions. That was full of information. I do have one though for your youth. what did you call it? Summer company. Does it need to be bricks and mortar business?
Absolutely
'Cause
not.
a lot of youth do start businesses that are
Yeah.
door to door or
Landscapers.
in
I-
their dog walkers, house sitter, yeah.
Yeah,
different
all of it.
things. Okay.
Backyard swimming lessons, landscaper. There's a great landscaper here. I believe he's West
Keegan.
Elgin.
Yeah, Keegan.
Pete. Yeah, so he started out of summer company and now he has a whole team and he's doing really well. So he's a great success story from the program locally.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my first question. Anybody have any questions around the table? Counselor Denny?
Through the chair. Al, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to come down to West Elgin and present to us and bring us up to speed. So we just recently started our new Economic Development Committee here in the municipality with a couple council members and some business owners. So as we try to figure out what our first objective is going to be, we're trying to figure out what our North Star is going to be. Once we establish what that is that something that your organization could support us with, and whether being a presence at whatever that event might look like, or helping us to create awareness or essentially branding of this idea that's hopefully going to excite and unite the community under sort of one really special idea that ties our community together. Is that something you would be a part of?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually fortunate a number of years ago to, when I was in a role similar to Elle's, sit on the West Elgin Economic Development Committee. And I would be very pleased to do so again. So yeah, would be happy to engage. And also, honestly, for us in St. Thomas right now, we're in a unique and very strange position where we have land inquiries that we can't even consider right now. And so we do our best to kind of like share those with our neighbors to the extent that we can. And whether it's through that committee or outside of that, the better understanding we have of any available development sites that you have here, we will be happy to kind of share some of that pipeline with you.
And please hand out these cards. That would be
Okay.
the best thing you could do.
Counselor Devakis?
It's like a different, hi, friends. It's like a different conversation for us to have, but it's to put it out there. So we've started our Women in Business Networking group out here. And one of the things that we've talked with Elgin Business Resource Center about as well is that there is often West Elgin gets forgotten in this kind of Elgin County. And often for your organizations, because you don't get a lot of funding, it's hard to fully staff, but it seems often that there's this kind of in and out. So when there's grants, we kind of see the organization again, and then when there's not, it's that piece. So for a lot of our brick and mortar older businesses, it's this kind of, we aren't really represented, right? St. Thomas is so big, you're seeing such huge economic growth that, and I think we've talked about this even when I was working there, right? So just having a bigger conversation either with that networking group or with the Economic Development Committee on how they can further be kind of impacted. And then the other thing that has come up is that a lot of our business owners aren't young entrepreneurs. And what we're seeing in this kind of environment of business support is a huge focus on this kind of millennial. And so for those of us who aren't in there anymore, it's feeling a little bit isolating, right? That everywhere you look in London, this is what we are. So what does that look like for your types of organizations and for us in these groups as people age out and aren't being included in that kind of demographic?
Yeah, no, this is a huge issue. And this is why I think it's really important and why we're coming around to all these councils, because the truth is like with EBRC, with Elgin County Economic Development, there are overlaps in our services. However, what makes each of us unique is the rapport we build with our clients, right? So Josh and I, like, Josh would never just go to another person because of the rapport I have with him. And so that's really important. And what we really want to do, the reason why we need you to hand these out is because you have rapport with people here. And so that's the in that they need to be invited into our network and all the opportunities. And our Starter Company Plus has no age limit on it. So by all means, like, that is for everyone. I find there's a bit of a gap. It's a bit sometimes easier to engage with people who are new to the area. You know, they sort of reach out and have that internet savviness. So there can be a bit of a gap with folks who've been in business a long time, not wanting, you know, some young people telling them how to run their business or giving them ideas. So it can be challenging both ways for sure. But I think it's all comes down to relationships, and we're here to do that work. And so that's why those three things really are what we need from you to be able to continue to do this work with your community. But yeah.
And just to add to that, I completely agree with you. I think that especially over a long view of time, there has been a lot of, there's effort to provide focus, especially, BAM and West Elgin being the far wings of Elgin County. It is difficult from a resource perspective to kind of get out here and have a presence. But in my opinion, it's essential to do so, which is why we're here today and why I hope that we can kind of sustain a bit more of that. Resource limitations are the challenge, but I think that in the future, if we can find the resources to do it, there would be good cause to expand some of the services that we offer. And I think we might be the right vehicle for it. There are two things that I think could serve the county really well. One is dedicated advisors that spend time in the downtowns of all of the towns and villages of Elgin County, sort of have that as their focus. Similar in a way to how the My Main Street program was able to be rolled out, but in a more permanent structure with a more stable funding apparatus. The other thing, and this in my mind is probably the larger economic opportunity, is some sort of service that's focused, advisement service specifically for agriculture. In most of the rural municipalities of Elgin County, probably all of them, the largest economic output is your farm businesses. Across the county, it's like the most recent numbers I could find, I think were like 2018 or something, but it was like over $500 million of economic receipts of businesses in Elgin County. To me, like these are the businesses that from a larger scale economic development perspective, we need to focus on, right? These are the guys who, if you can convince them instead of just buying another farm next year and another farm next year, suggest ideas like building feed mills or investing in processing capacity, right? Bringing more of that value chain industry into your community as a direct increase in tax base. So I think there is perhaps a case for that in the future, but now we're way out of the scope of today's chat.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your delegation to us. Yeah, as a former mayor said, sometimes we get forgotten out here because we're west of Dunbar or west of Kerr Road, so, or whatever the saying was, so. But thank you for coming out, because yeah, sometimes, as you said, Mike, it's BAM or West Elgin, and we're just in different spots in Elgin County, so. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead the recommendation.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the presentation from Elgin St. Thomas Small Business Enterprise Center as information only.
I move in a seconder. Counselor Navakis, Counselor Denning is a seconder. All in favor? Is so carried. We'll go on to number 5 is just adoption of the minutes, that West Elgin Council hereby adopt the minutes of February 8th, 2024 as presented. And I move in a seconder. Counselor Denning, Counselor Navakis, all in favor? So carried. Number 5, any business arriving from those minutes that we've just approved? Seeing none, we'll go on to staff reports, Operations Community Services, Lee Gosnell. I think everyone's had time to look that over and read it. Any questions in regards to his report? Or do you have any comments, Lee? Okay. Not seeing any, I'll get the recommendation for that report, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Lee Gosnell, Manager of Operations and Community Services for information purposes.
A mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Statham, move it, seconded by Counselor Navakis. All in favor? That is so carried. And we'll go on to 7.2, which is the clerk's 7.2.1 OTF funding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this report was brought to council today. The Ontario Trillium Grant is due March 6th, I believe is the date. So putting some ideas together, staff had proposed that possibly submitting the application for the multi-use pad in Miller Park would be a great idea. We're still in the process of obtaining all the quotes and the proper documentation to submit it. However, we're certainly open to if council had other ideas to move forward with a grant application. Certainly, the more grants we can apply for, the better. But does council have any other other opportunities, ideas that they would like to see, or is the multi-use pad?
Any ideas around the table? Any comments? I believe you said that the grant could be used, like different people in the community.
That's
can
correct.
apply at one
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. So I did sit on a webinar last week about, and I did ask the question because I know the application is also being submitted by the Rodney's Kiwanis Club as well for the Rodney Park. So I did ask that we would still be eligible, and they confirmed that it is one per or per applicant, not per community. So
Perfect.
yes, I did clarify that to make sure that we would not.
Just wanted to point that out in
Yes.
case anyone was like, oh, can we
Yes,
just do
that
it
was
through
my first-
geographical location? Yeah.
Yes, that was my first question on the webinar.
All right, see no questions or anything. Want to go ahead with the recommendation here? Are we looking at option 1 or 2? Sorry,
Option 1 being the
One, yeah.
multi-use pad, or option 2 being if council has a other recommendation.
looks like option 1 was what everyone was looking at, if I'm looking around the table. So we'll go ahead and have that recommendation then, please, clerk.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Terry Toshik, clerk, regarding the Ontario Trillium Fund grant proposal, and that council directs staff to proceed with the application with the proposed project of the multi-use pad at Miller Park and submit the application to the Ontario Trillium Fund prior to March 6, 2024.
And a mover and a seconder, please. Counselor Navakis. Counselor Statham, all in favor? That is so carried. So we've been going at this for over an hour now, so I think we'll take a bit of a break if that's okay. So a 5-minute break. Okay, after a break now, we'll start off with where we are on agenda for 7.2.2, the Port Glasgow Yacht Club Marina Pier Extension.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is brought back to council again. And basically it is the same report that was presented on February 8th with a little bit of it added to it. So I'll just go through what has been added on to there. So at the regular meeting of council, February 8th, council had revisited the subject and ultimately deferred the decision, advising that they would like to see the walkable piers for recreational fishing to be added to the proposal prior to an approval. And council also advised that they would like to see an economic impact study completed in the summer months to determine the impact on the entire community, and would also like a full review of the current agreement between the Port Glasgow Yacht Club and West Elgin, as the current agreement is 30 years old. So however, the potential approval is not dependent on the second and the third requests. Attached to my report is a letter that we have received from Mr. Ron Fox, who's the chair of the Port Glasgow Yacht Club Policy and Planning Committee for the Board of Directors. And just to highlight the one section in Mr. Fox's letter, that time is of the essence in that the FedDev grant application was submitted on February 1st, 2024, with receipt acknowledged and final closing date being February 28th, 2024. The application process provides that further required information can be submitted prior to the 28th. So that being said, Mr. Fox is indicating that they can go back in and change to whether whether West Elgin is providing the additional funding or whether they are not. So just bringing back this report to the table again, council's options are, of course, to either provide that maximum amount of 288,000 from the Marina Pier Extension Reserve, or deny the request with the option to utilize the Marina Pier Extension Reserve funds for a future project of council's discretion. So I will open up the floor to council for any discussion, comments moving forward.
Any discussion from council on this? Counselor Navakis?
Through the chair, I'm just a bit confused, and I do know that Dan is here from the yacht club. Part of where my concerns were is that we aren't necessarily maybe working in great partnership for this economic development, that based on my first year here with the fish cleaning station, that having verbal agreements or assumptions on who's doing what and paying for things causes problems. And then looking at the agreement that we have in place that isn't even being followed currently, that to once again partner by moving funds and spending funds, I needed to see that we had either a working agreement, a new agreement to continue this. So for me, while I said I wanted them to look into making sure that it could be still fished, it was looking at it so that we can continue to create an environment that our community can go down and use. The economic impact study is something that we as council can decide to do at any time. So not necessarily needing the yacht club even to agree to that. So we can take that off. For me, it's the agreement. I need to know that the yacht club is in good faith going to sit down and relook at this agreement. And then I have no problem moving funds that other past councils have said they were going to use for this to their partners. But until the yacht club had agreed, and I thought I had made that clear last meeting, that I just needed them to say that, yes, they were willing to look at the agreement that we haven't been following, so that I can feel comfortable, because then I can say to our constituents that we're in a new agreement, we're trying to work on a new partnership so that we can be creating an economic driver down at the beach with our partners. So I'm confused by how, like, that did not come back in the letter. So it is very hard for me. The one thing I need is a new agreement so that we can work together as partners with this money on another project. And so I don't know if Dan's allowed to speak to whether or not the yacht club has agreed to that one piece. I don't want to keep deferring it. I know that they need this money. I've talked to many people who have recommended that because past councils have agreed to this money, that in good faith, we should be pushing this along. But like I said, the agreement is outdated, and that is all I would like to be working on. And so if we aren't either going to sit down and discuss a new agreement, then I'm not going to agree to giving them money yet. And I know that they're on a time crunch.
Hearing what you're saying, and thank you for that, Councillor Bacchus, if we did a timeline of when a new agreement could be made and not hold them up, would that work?
I'm just looking for an agreement with both parties that we are going to sit down and look at this, and then I'm fine to say that the municipality is supporting this endeavor. The economic impact study, I think, is probably a motion that we would have to bring back forward, but that we as council don't need the yacht club's permission to do that, so we can move on. And if we have a new agreement and a new partnership, it means that we can move forward as a group to make sure that we can be doing fishing down there. So for me, perhaps I didn't clarify it last time, but the agreement is my.
Okay, so if we went ahead and since the time is approaching, could we make a date that they could sit down, an agreeable date that they could sit and do that, and that be okay? Maggie, you have something?
If I may, so council requested for staff to work on the agreement. I have already approached our municipal solicitor. There are a number of questions that she has listed that our staff need to answer first before we approach the yacht club. So the agreement is underway. Staff is currently working on it. As far as economic impact study, I have approached the developer who is planning on investing money in that area. So the area is called now Hope Harbor, formerly Seaside. They are currently in the process of doing preliminary research and economic assessment for the entire area. That information will be done the summer of 2024. And at the same time, they have engaged University of Waterloo Planning School, and they're assisting them with the economic impact study as well. Both reports will be, they're willing to share, and they're open to share to municipal council as they are completed.
Through the chair, I guess my one question is that we're going about all this work to look at the agreement. But what if our partners say, too bad? And this is where I'm saying for the funding, that if I don't get, that if our partners aren't agreeing that they're willing to look at this agreement, then I'm not going to agree to move forward with
I don't think, based on last 2 or 3 meetings that we had with the yacht club, I don't think there is an intention of not renewing the agreement. This was my own, that's how I took it. Again, anything can change, but there is appetite. We've been talking about this agreement for the last 3 or 4 years. It's, there are items in the agreement that no longer pertain to the municipality or to the yacht club. So it's not a legal document anymore. So Dan can speak on behalf of yacht club, but I don't, is there an appetite to review that agreement with municipal staff? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Normally, you're not allowed to speak at council meetings, so unfortunately, yeah. Counselor Denning?
Through the chair, all really good, important points and good conversation, but I think we're at a point here where we have asked legal to review this agreement. If the legal comes back after staff opinion that the agreement no longer protects the community, we have no choice but to renew the agreement. So I feel like it's a moot point. We may be forced, but I do feel like, you know, at this point, this juncture, based on the fact that legal's reviewing it, that we really, I think, owe it to the past commitments that have been made to move forward with this, and then just be very aware that additional projects in the future with our partners at the yacht club will certainly, most certainly, be conditional upon an upgraded agreement that protects all those that are affected by it.
Thank you for that. Just to clarify, on the municipal act, we are not, new council is not bound to previous agreements that other councils agreed upon, correct? Okay, that's the way I read it, but that's just so that maybe we can think going ahead that it's gonna be anyways, the staff time and stuff to redo on each council is a little ridiculous, but maybe I'm reading it incorrect. Councilor Statham, you have anything you want to say?
Through the chair, I think we've sort of gone over everything that I had in mind. To me, the biggest things were and I would put out that I've been approached by multiple businesses in Rodney and in West Lorne, and some of those businesses directly tied to fishing at the marina. And the resounding comments that I received back from them were that they wanted to see the ability for shore fishing because that's something that directly affects the community, which we've addressed, so that's great. The feeling from most of the people that I've spoken to was that you know, the people that come to fish there and launch their boats there, as well as they're not from the community, they're coming from elsewhere. And the people who fish from the pier are residents of the community that are going down there in the evenings with their kids, as I have many times myself done. And they want that to be something that continues. So I think that's been addressed. I think we have, that's sort of agreed to. So that's great. With respect to the agreement, I also would really like to see a commitment from the yacht club that we renew that agreement or at least revisit it. And again, I think that's in the works, but to me, that was again, something that I thought that we'd sort of agreed upon at the last meeting. I'm not sure where that kind of went off the rails, but those were the two things that I really thought were important before we authorized the release of those funds. So that's where I sort of sit on this one.
Yeah, there's discussion. I think, just throw my 2 cents in there. They've attended every meeting. They've been to every meeting. They're interested. They obviously want to work with us, so that speaks volumes to me that the yacht club wants to be continuing and moving forward. They haven't said it, but at least to me, but obviously want to work on something that doesn't even have, we weren't even the municipality of Alderborough them. So yeah, they want to work on update things. So to me, that speaks volumes that they've been engaged in working with us and working with the staff. So, okay, Are we going ahead with the recommendation at this point, clerk? Or any more discussion around the table? No, okay, we'll go with that recommendation.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Terry Toshchuk clerk regarding the Port Glasgow Yacht Club Marina Pier Extension. And option 1 is that West Elgin Council hereby partner with the Port Glasgow Yacht Club and contribute to the Port Glasgow Marina Pier Extension project to a maximum of $288,000. And that West Elgin Council transfer the funds from the Marina Pier Extension reserves to set aside for this specific purpose.
Okay, we move into second on that recommendation, please. Counselor Denning and a seconder. We'll call another time for a seconder on that recommendation for option 1. Not seeing one. You're gonna second it? Okay, seconded by Counselor Navakis. All in favor? That is so approved. We'll move on to 7.3, which is finance and administration. I'll hand this over to our CAO, Magda Bedura, for the water modeling study. That's you. I did do a seconder. All in favor? Yep. No, it was there. Do you want me to do it again, just for clarification? Okay, so the recommendation that West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Terry Toshchuk, clerk, Port Glasgow Yacht Club Marina Pier Extension, and option 1, the West Elgin Council hereby partner with Port Glasgow Yacht Club and contribute to the Port Glasgow Marina Pier Extension project to a maximum of $288,000, and that West Elgin Council transfer those funds from the Marina Pier Extension Reserve set aside for this specific purpose. So I'll have a mover, which is Counselor Denny, a seconder, Counselor Vakis, and then all in favor? Just 2 of you, okay? Will that pass now? All in favor? Okay, so all in favor, and that is carried. All good then? Okay, so the finance administration, we're going on with the 7.3.1, as I said before, West Elgin water modeling study, and take it away, Magda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So basically, there are, as some of you are aware, there are 2 studies that municipality of West Elgin has requested from Dillon. One was done for Tri-County Water, and then the second one for our municipality. The intent of the modeling study for our municipality is to identify areas of concern, and at the same time, knowing where the challenges are going to be, or with the development coming to our municipality, and be prepared for that. As you know, the invisible infrastructure is the one that is the most difficult and problematic, as we don't see them. It's the most expensive when it comes to the replacement. And there is not a lot of information that we currently have. We currently working on asset management. The only information for our water system in our asset inventory is the year of the infrastructure that was put in, the size of the pipe, and the length. And we have thousands and thousands of assets like this. We don't know where they go, we don't know where they're located. So it's a good start with this study to get it going, as basically on the Tri-County side, as you know, the water board is struggling. We're trying to find areas where we can sell more water. All municipalities that belong to the board have already done water modeling studies. We're the only ones that never completed the study. This information will be used for the Tri-County assessment as well down the road. And it's not just beneficial to the Tri-County, but to our municipality. So I encourage council to approve. I realize it is very costly, but knowing where, there will be a list of recommendations from the consultant. There will be probably grants available down the road. And this way, we can have this project ready for the grant. So does anybody have any questions from the report?
Counselor Denning?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Magda. So with regards to this 45,500, how will that impact budget for this year?
So the cost of the study will be incorporated in water operating budget. That will be presented to council probably in the upcoming in March meeting. I know it's been deferred, but will be part of our operating budget, and will have to be covered by either water ratepayers, or another option would be for council to there is money in tax rate stabilization reserves that could be used for that purpose, but that will be discussion that will be presented to council during water operating budget.
Any other questions for council? Not seeing any. They'll go ahead with the recommendation, please, clerk.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from M. Badura, CAO Treasurer, regarding West Elgin Water Modeling Study, and that West Elgin Council approves the proposal prepared by Dillon Engineering for the purpose of engineering services to prepare water modeling study in the amount of $45,500 plus applicable taxes.
Any mover and seconder for that recommendation? Counselor Denning moves, seconded by Counselor Salem. All in favor? That is so carried. 7.3.2 is council remuneration. Everyone's read that report. Any questions on that? No? Just a reminder, if someone's watching this later on YouTube, that some of the costs, I don't know what the wording would be, for the mayor are covered by the county, because I know some people in the past have asked questions why obviously doesn't kind of make sense, that line there.
Mhm.
And then education in that can make a difference. So can we have the recommendation, please?
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Magda Badura, CAO Treasurer, regarding 2023 council remuneration and expenses report for information only.
Thank you for that. And I'm looking for a mover and seconder for the recommendation. Councilor Novakis, a seconder. Councilor Statham, all in favor? That is so carried. 7.3.3 is Rodney sewage change request. Number 01 Lagoon decant system design. I believe that would be Yuli.
No.
No, Magda, okay. I was
Thank
trying to
you.
get off the hook there, Magda. All right, you have the floor.
Thank you. So as you're aware, we've applied for the grant for the refurbishment of the Rodney sewer. It was back in 2020. Since then, we've been dealing with pandemic. So things have been on hold for a number of years. Last year, RV Anderson started the project again. We started with lagoon dredging. The total cost was estimated at $650,000. And the reason for the dredging is to allow room for when the Rodney sewer system is shut down for the replacement. So, there is to allow storage of effluent. So that's been done. Currently, since Christmas, around Christmas time, we have been draining water from lagoons. The pump is running 24/7 to bring the lagoon water levels at a certain point where the replacement can be done. However, from the application process, to when this project was awarded to RV Anderson. Things have changed, and Lagoon Decant system was not included in their proposal of engineering services. That's why I had to bring this report back to council for additional approval. There is, the RV Anderson proposal is included. As you can see, this isn't something that can be done in few hours. It requires many different levels of expertise. But it has to be done. It is required for the Rodney Sewer to design new decant system. And from our estimate, even though I don't know how accurate these numbers are, right now we're estimating for the project to be around $4 million. It is hard to say. We're estimating mechanical upgrades will cost us approximately $3.1 million, but we don't know that until tender goes out and we receive the responses. So this is RV Anderson best estimate. At this point, we are based on the cost estimates that we have, and I provided council with, we will be running short approximately $500,000.
Any questions around the table for that? Is what it, and are there chances for grants, anything else? Are we all granted out?
We cannot, unfortunately, we cannot apply for another grant, as you know, this project has already started. So this is one
That
of the
makes sense.
conditions to apply for grants. However, we have been allocating OSIF money every year. So the chances are by the time the project is completed, we'll have additional funding from OSIF to allocate towards Rodney Sewer, or the last option would be financing. We did the same thing for West Lawn Sewer. We ran $300,000 short and we financed that amount.
Okay. And being a municipality that normally doesn't finance, that's a good thing, yeah?
Yes.
Thanks for keeping us in check.
Absolutely.
But if it's an option, it's an option that we have to look at in the future, so. No, this other discussion around the table? Not seeing any, I'll go ahead with the recommendation, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Magda Badura, CAO Treasurer, regarding Rodney Sewage Change Request Number 1, Lagoon Decant System Design, and that West Elgin Council approved additional cost of engineering in the amount of $65,394.70 plus applicable taxes.
A mover, please, for the recommendation. Counselor Denning, a second. Counselor Statham, all in favor? That is carried. Move under number 8, which is committee and board reports or updates. There's none received, but anyone have any oral ones here? Not seeing any. Number 9 is accounts. Everyone's had a chance, as we got them nice and early, to look over that. Any questions around the council table about those accounts? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead with the recommendation, please, clerk.
That the mayor and treasurer are hereby authorized to sign payment voucher number 2A amounting to $1,417,146.29 in settlement of general, road, water, and arena accounts, including check number 26384 to 26396, EFT number 7846 to 7907, and payroll pay period 3.
A mover and a seconder for that. Counselor Navakis has moved, seconder. Counselor Statham, all in favor? That is so carried. Number 10 on our agenda is notice of motion. Do we have any of those at this time? There's none received. Not seeing any. Number 11 on the agenda, council inquiries or announcements. Counselor Navakis?
Through the chair, I would just like to thank our rec staff and make the announcement that we have 2 weeks left of our youth rec night at the Rodney Rec Center on Wednesday. Adam has been lovely in getting all of the equipment out, and we've had about 30 kids every Wednesday. And apparently we're gonna keep it rolling.
That's a big success. And they want to keep
Sure.
it rolling right up till
Soccer.
soccer time. So there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Counselor Denning?
Through the chair, thank you. And I just want to commend Councillor Navakis for organizing and arranging all of that, and what a huge success it's been. I know that there's been a lot of comments in the past in the community about nothing for kids to do. So I hope there will be an opportunity to basically show the community all of the wonderful success that you've had with this program, perhaps with some promotion of the fun that you've had with the kids. Thank you.
Any other counselor inquiries or announcements? Seeing none, thank you for that. We'll move on to number 12, which is correspondence. Anybody want to have any comment on the correspondence that's there? Okay, we'll go have the recommendation then, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receive and file all correspondence not otherwise dealt with.
A mover and a seconder, Counselor Denning. Counselor Navakis, all in favor? That's so moved. Number 13 are items requiring council consideration. So 13.1 is the Rodney horticultural fee waiver request that they had there. Anyone have any discussion about that request? Yep, go ahead, recommendation, please.
Did you want me to, did council have any questions about the request that was received from the Horticultural Society?
Counselor Denning?
Yeah.
Just, I suppose, through the chair, for the record, this is something that's been ongoing for many years, and for many years, council has waived the fee for this event.
That is correct. So they did also submit for the grant application. Those have not been just formalized or finalized by council. So those will be removed from the grant applications, or noted at least that this was already been approved if council wishes to do so.
That sounds great. Okay, recommendation, please.
That West Elgin Council acknowledge receipt of the fee waiver request submitted by the Rodney and District Horticultural Society, and that council approved the request to waive fees for the Rodney Recreation Center, May 10th, 2024 at a cost of $100 plus applicable taxes, and the 2024 annual plant sale, May 11th, 2024 at a cost of $200 plus applicable taxes, in accordance with West Elgin Rental Contract number 732. And that the approvals be noted during the 2024 community grant applications and budget discussions as approved.
Thank you for that. I need a mover, please. Counselor Navakis and a seconder. Counselor Statham, all in favor? And it's so moved. 13.2 is Elgin County Library request.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I can certainly address this one as well. This was another request that was received from Ms. Given, the branch supervisor for the Rodney, Dutton and West Lorne branches. They're going to be doing a stargazing event, and then also it's their summer reading program. So they have asked for council's approval to use the beach and the parking lot for the stargazing event on August 9th, 2024. And also the use of Miller Park Pavilion on August 10th, 2024, which has been confirmed that the pavilion is available for that time frame.
Okay, great. Any questions around the table? Seeing none?
The recommendation is that West Elgin Council acknowledge receipt of the request dated January 23rd, 2024 from Janet Given, Branch Supervisor, Dutton, West Lorne and Rodney Library branches, and that council approve the use of the beach and parking lot for the stargazing event, August 9th, 2024, and that council approve the use of the Miller Park Pavilion on August 10th, 2024 for the Summer Reading Club, with fees to be waived for this purpose.
A mover, please. Counselor Statham, a seconder. Counselor Denning, and all in favor? That is so carried. That sounds like fun. Can I be part of the summer reading club? Sure. That sounds like fun. And the stargazing too, but summer reading. Number 14, the agenda, upcoming meetings and holiday closures. Got the 28th, the Old Town Hall meeting, sorry. It's at 9 a.m. Oh, I don't know. I'll be there. March 13th, 9 a.m., the West Elgin Community Center Board of Management, the 14th of March, the council meeting again, 27th of March, 7 is the rec committee. We're getting ready for Canada Day. March 28th, council meeting, and the 29th and the 1st are closures for our municipal office and staff. to have a much needed break and celebrate their families to have Easter or whatever they celebrate. So that's that information given there. Any others to add? Nope, doesn't seem to be any. Number 15 agenda is bylaws. 15.1.
So 15.1 is bylaw 2024-15, which is an agreement with the Kiwanis Club of Rodney for the Rodney Park Ontario Trillium Fund grant application. The recommendation is that bylaw 2024-15, a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Kiwanis Club of Rodney Incorporated 74327 and the Corporation of the Municipality of West Elgin be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Can I have a mover, please, for that recommendation? Counselor Statham and a seconder. Counselor Novakis, and all in favor? That's so carried. 15.2 bylaw 2024-16 CBO agreement. Can we have the recommendation, please?
That bylaw 2024-16 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement for the provisions of Building Code Act administration and the enforcement services within the Township of Southwold and repeal bylaw number 2023-04 being read a first, second, and third and final time.
A mover for that, Counselor Novakis, seconder, Counselor Denning, all in favor? That's so carried. 15.3 bylaw 2024-17, appoint an alternate county council member.
That bylaw 2024-17 being a bylaw to appoint an alternate member to the council of the County of Elgin during an absence of the mayor be read a first, second, and third and final time.
A mover, please, Counselor Novakis, a seconder, Counselor Statham, all in favor? So carried, and that brings us into closed session for the meeting.
The recommendation is that the Council of the Municipality of West Elgin hereby proceeds into closed session at 5:55 PM to discuss matters pursuant to section 239(2)B, being personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. D, labor relations or employee negotiations. E, being litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board.
Can I have a mover to go into closed session? Counselor Denning and a seconder, Counselor Statham. Those in favor? And that is carried. I can. Just making sure I'm in the right spot here. Yeah. So report from closed session for February 22nd, 2024. Council received items pursuant to the Municipal Act, section 239(2)B, being personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local employees. Section 239(2)D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and section 239(2)E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Direction was provided, direction including the following resolution, that the West Elgin Council hereby authorize the CAO/treasurer to hire a part-time special projects manager with the option to renegotiate at the end of the contract. Mover seconder? Counselor Statham? Counselor Novakis, all in favor? That is so moved. And we needed to say what time we reported out at.
I have it recorded at 6:58 PM.
Okay. Confirming bylaw number 18.
That bylaw 2024-18 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held on February 22nd, 2024 be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover, please. Counselor Denning, seconder. Counselor Novakis, all in favor? That is so carried. Number 19 is adjournment.
That the Council of the Municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 6:59 PM to meet again at 4:00 PM on Thursday, March 14th, 2024 at the call of the chair.
A mover, please. Counselor Statham, seconder. Counselor Novakis, all in favor? So carried. All right, thank you.